Vincent Hale was once the kind of cop every rookie admired: sharp, fearless, and always one step ahead. But when his badge was stripped away and his name buried under scandal, he vanished without a trace. Years later, Pinewood County would learn just how dangerous a man like Hale could be when he returned not to clear his name, but to humiliate the very system that betrayed him, stealing a police cruiser and leading officers on a 126 miles per hour chase that would blur the line between justice and revenge. The night air in Pinewood County carried a heavy silence, broken only by the distant hum of passing trucks on the interstate. Inside the small brick police station, the overnight shift dragged on quietly. Officers came and went, some finishing reports, others sipping coffee in the break room. No one noticed the shadow that slipped across the parking lot just after midnight. Under the dim yellow lights, a figure in dark clothing moved carefully between the rows of vehicles until they reached an older police cruiser parked near the back fence. The car looked ordinary: faded decals, a few scratches on the bumper, but it still held power, authority, and most importantly, keys left inside. The intruder moved with purpose. In one swift motion, the door opened, the engine turned over, and the red and blue lights flashed to life. Within seconds, the cruiser rolled out of the lot and disappeared into the empty streets. It wasn't until 20 minutes later that an officer, returning from a routine call, realized the car was gone. At first, he thought someone had borrowed it without signing it out, but when dispatch confirmed every patrol was accounted for, panic spread through the room. The missing vehicle wasn't equipped with the latest tracking system, making it almost impossible to trace. Calls began pouring in from nearby towns. Motorists reported seeing a police cruiser speeding dangerously down Route 17 with its sirens blaring, pushing through traffic at more than 120 miles per hour. Witnesses said it didn't look like any pursuit they'd seen before. It was wild, unpredictable, almost as if the driver was testing how far the car could go. The first responding units tried to catch up, but the distance was growing fast. The stolen cruiser darted through red lights, swerved across lanes, and disappeared around sharp bends with frightening control. Helicopters were ordered into the sky, but by the time they lifted off, the car had already vanished into the dark countryside. Back at the station, officers replayed security footage frame by frame. The hooded figure never looked toward the camera, never hesitated. Whoever it was, they knew exactly what they were doing and how to avoid being seen. The only clue was a faint reflection on the window, a hint of something metallic on the intruder's wrist, maybe a badge, maybe a watch. Whatever it was, one thing became clear: this was no ordinary car thief. This was someone who knew the police, understood their systems, and had just declared war on them with a stolen badge and a stolen car. By the time the sun began to rise over the horizon, the story of the stolen police cruiser had already spread beyond Pinewood County. News networks picked up scanner chatter, and soon reporters were describing a high-speed pursuit unlike any other. Patrol cars from 3 neighboring towns joined the chase, their lights piercing the darkness as they raced to intercept the stolen vehicle. The driver, however, seemed to know exactly when and where to strike. Every attempt to corner him failed. He used emergency lanes, narrow side roads, and service routes only local officers would know. Each time law enforcement closed in, the stolen cruiser slipped away, as if guided by someone who had rehearsed the escape in advance. The dispatcher's voice grew strained as updates came in every few minutes. The speed was now recorded at 126 miles per hour, a dangerous pace even for trained officers. The roads blurred beneath the tires, sparks flying as the vehicle clipped barriers and brushed against guardrails. Despite the damage, the car kept going strong. It wasn't just a chase anymore. It was a test of endurance and nerve. Units from the highway patrol tried setting up roadblocks, but the stolen cruiser outmaneuvered them all. Onlookers from nearby rest stops filmed the flashing convoy as it thundered past, unaware they were witnessing one of the most reckless thefts in county history. The chase stretched deep into the industrial district, where old factories stood silent and forgotten. It was a maze of rusted gates, broken windows, and narrow passages. The air unit circled overhead, but low clouds and smoke from a distant fire obscured the ground view. For a tense few minutes, radio contact was lost. Officers fanned out, searching every alley and warehouse entrance, but there was nothing: no sound, no light, no movement. The stolen cruiser had vanished completely. When the helicopter feed returned, the camera showed empty streets glistening under flickering streetlights. The vehicle had dissolved into the shadows like it was never there. Frustration filled the control room. How could a stolen car, even a police cruiser, disappear without a trace under the watch of dozens of officers? The only explanation was unsettling. Whoever was behind the wheel understood police tactics well enough to stay one step ahead. And somewhere out there, that driver was watching their every move, waiting for the next moment to strike again. Morning light crept over Pinewood County as officers combed the industrial zone for any sign of the missing cruiser. After hours of searching, a patrol unit finally spotted it parked behind an abandoned paper mill at the edge of town. The car sat perfectly still, headlights dim, the engine cold. Dust clung to its sides as if it had been there all night, though witnesses had seen it speeding only an hour earlier. Officers surrounded the scene cautiously, expecting the driver to still be nearby. But the area was silent except for the distant hum of machinery from a nearby plant. Whoever had driven it there had vanished. When investigators opened the door, they found the inside unusually clean for a car that had just survived a high-speed chase. There were no signs of panic, no blood, no damage to the steering column, no fingerprints on the dashboard. Instead, 3 items rested neatly on the passenger seat: a pair of black gloves, a worn-out police badge from another state, and a folded map of Pinewood County marked with 3 red circles. The discovery turned confusion into unease. Each red mark corresponded to a specific location, one near the police station, one near the highway, and another near a remote storage complex outside town. The badge number led detectives to a name that most of them recognized from old files: Vincent Hale, a former officer who had resigned under suspicious circumstances 5 years earlier. He had been accused of tampering with evidence in a narcotics investigation and vanished before facing charges. At the time, the department assumed he had fled the state. Now, his badge sitting inside a stolen police cruiser raised a chilling possibility. Was Hale back, and was this his way of sending a message? Detectives searched the car's onboard computer and discovered the dash camera had been manually disabled. Even the internal GPS unit had been ripped out. Every traceable feature had been removed with precision. Whoever did it wasn't trying to run, they were trying to hide their movements completely. News of the discovery spread quickly. Citizens gathered near the paper mill to watch as the car was towed away, whispering theories about who could have pulled off such a daring crime. But within the department, a heavier truth settled in. This was no impulsive act. The chase had been planned, rehearsed, and executed by someone who knew exactly how to make the police look powerless in their own town. Detectives followed the trail left by the map found inside the stolen cruiser, starting with the 3 red circles that had puzzled everyone. The first location led them to a small parking lot near the police station, a place that offered a perfect view of the back gate where patrol cars were kept. From there, a person could easily study the station's routines, watch which officers arrived late, and learn which cars were rarely checked. The second circle marked a narrow overpass on Route 17, directly above the section of highway where the chase had first been reported. It was an ideal vantage point for anyone wanting to observe the pursuit's progress, as if the thief had already known how far the police could go before pulling back. But it was the third location that truly unsettled the team. It pointed to a storage facility on the outskirts of town, hidden behind a row of decaying warehouses. When investigators arrived, they found one unit's lock broken and replaced with a newer one recently installed. With a warrant in hand, they cut the lock and stepped inside. What they saw looked less like a storage space and more like a personal operations base. Dozens of police uniforms hung neatly on racks, some belonging to neighboring counties, others from out of state. Shelves were lined with scanners, radios, and dash cameras, equipment that had gone missing from different departments over the past few years. There were notebooks filled with shift schedules, road layouts, and radio frequencies written in careful detail. It became clear that whoever orchestrated the chase hadn't just stolen one car. They had been studying law enforcement for a long time, collecting everything needed to replicate the system from the inside. The presence of Hale's badge now took on a darker meaning. Forensic analysis confirmed the timestamp just hours before the stolen cruiser vanished from sight. The chase, it seemed, had been nothing more than a demonstration of control. Hale or someone following in his footsteps had tested the system, proven its weakness, and vanished again, leaving only the illusion of order behind. Weeks passed after the discovery at the storage facility, but no trace of the mysterious driver surfaced. The department was on edge, every officer glancing twice at their patrol car before beginning a shift. Reports came in from neighboring counties about police vehicles being followed late at night, yet when units responded, there was nothing but empty roads and the fading echo of sirens in the distance. The stolen cruiser had become a ghost story, a reminder of how easily someone had slipped past every layer of security. Detectives pored over every lead connected to Vincent Hale, but his trail was as cold as the morning frost. His last known address had been cleared out years ago. No relatives, no bank activity, no digital footprint, just silence. Then, one cold evening, a farmer called the county sheriff's office about a strange sight near an old bridge that crossed the river. A police car was parked at the edge, lights off, doors locked, the engine silent. The license plate matched the stolen cruiser. It looked untouched, polished, and strangely pristine, as though someone had cleaned it before returning it. When investigators opened the door, they found a note placed neatly on the dashboard. The handwriting was sharp and deliberate, the message brief, 1 to 6 mph. You'll never catch who's faster. Every forensic test came back blank, no fingerprints, no DNA, nothing that could identify who had left the message. The steering wheel and gear shift were wiped clean, and even the tires showed signs of being replaced recently. But one detail stood out. Inside the glove compartment was a small flash drive. On it were encrypted files, mostly unreadable, except for one recovered image, a still frame from a security camera showing a figure wearing a Pinewood County uniform, standing beside the very same cruiser weeks before the theft. The revelation unsettled everyone. Had the thief been an active officer all along? Or was it someone who had managed to infiltrate the force? The department avoided making any statement to the media, fearing the damage it would cause. The car was quietly impounded, the bridge closed off, and the case labeled as under investigation. But late night drivers still spoke of seeing flashing lights speeding down Route 17, vanishing before they could tell where they came from. Some called it a myth, others swore it was real. The truth was buried somewhere between fact and fear, a chase that never truly ended, and a driver who seemed determined to remind the police how easily power could be stolen.